Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel here, and I figured it'd be fitting to wear a cowboy hat in this particular video here because there's one question about this event here that we associate with Western heritage and hospitality here, but recently, given what's been going on here, and this also can tie in with Calgary sports, but this is definitely more of a City of Calgary thing as well, but it also ties in, as I mentioned, with my sports, that the City of Calgary announced, given with recent events and recent what's been going on with this terrible pandemic here and trying to get ahead with it and beat this terrible thing, that the City of Calgary has banned all basically events, public gatherings until June 30th here. Yeah, June 30th. There's going to be no events, public gatherings in the City of Calgary here. It's similar to a measure that the City of Toronto implemented earlier this week here. However, there was one exception that it did say that it does not include professional sports games. As you know, that Toronto has the Blue Jays, the Raptors, the Maple Leafs, the Argonauts, and the FC for the MLS there, just to name the major sports teams here. However, I don't think those leagues are going to be coming back before then anyway, but in the case with the City of Calgary here, it does include those professional sports here, and there's still speculation on whenever the NHL is going to return to conclude the 2019-20 NHL regular season and eventually have a 2020 Stanley Cup playoffs here. But it also affects these guys, my Calgary Stampeders. As actually I looked in the calendar here, 4 games are going to be affected with this. There was 4 scheduled games that were scheduled up until June 30th here. As I also made my video recently on, not surprising that the CFL announced that the training camp in that is going to be postponed here, and also the combines, and I forgot to mention that video is canceled to, found out who could be drafted at, and just give some more off-season news here. But it's definitely more news and tough to take here given the situation. But if this is what it takes to finally beat this thing, so we can get back at it and get back into what I do at best, being a Calgary sports fan here and sports teams here. But it's definitely going to be interesting to know if whenever it comes back, will it come back in that same traditional form here. But the reason why I got to put on this cowboy hat for here is the greatest outdoor show on earth, also known as the Calgary Stampede. If they ban public gatherings and events here, given what's been going on up until June 30th here, we're getting pretty damn close to the Calgary Stampede. As originally it is scheduled that the Calgary Stampede was going to start on Friday, July 3rd, 2020, and go on until Sunday, July the 12th, 2020 here. However, with permits and that for all public gatherings and events being canceled up until June 30th here, could we say the Calgary Stampede is in jeopardy this year? Here's some food for thought here. The Calgary Stampede has been going on every year, the exhibition of Stampede in its form, since 1912 here. And since 1912 up to this point here, we've had 2 world wars. We've had the Great Depression. Heck, in 2013, we had those devastating floods that definitely wiped out Stampede Park there a couple weeks before the Stampede began. And it all happened despite the World Wars, the Great Depression, and the floods there. I mean, there were a few things like shows and that didn't happen in the Stampede in 2013 here. But I'm thinking the Calgary Stampede could be in jeopardy this year. And it never ever has been cancelled. So that is definitely shocking to think it that way. That this pandemic that's been going on could cancel it. I personally, hopefully, thinking we need the Stampede definitely more than ever, because in 2013 the city needed the Stampede for the economic effects that it would generate from the devastating floods here, but from an emotional and mental state. I needed that year. And I'm still after the high of celebrating the centennial in 2012 there, and I definitely really took that in, took in some extra events, because it's something that is associated with Calgary, and celebrate our Western heritage and culture and hospitality here. That's what the Stampede means to me. It definitely, all this news and that, I have to admit, has been tougher mentally here, but I'm not saying anything new, because it's definitely been tough on all of us here. And being a sports fan myself, that's one of the things I do to escape. And you can also debate here, and I know eventually I'll make a personal blog where I'll talk about, is sports fandom our religion? It's kind of has that same elements to what other people do with their respective religions, their gatherings and, things that you do as a community, things that you believe in, worship. Yeah, it kind of has that same thing here. And even those who aren't sports fans, who really are heavily into religion here, that's, been, postponed to institutional form, where you don't go to a place of worship like a church there, if you're Catholic or Christian or Muslim, in your mosques there. All that has definitely been canceled for any big gatherings here. And I know that this year it's class earlier here, but now it also has been postponed. My high school reunion here, but not surprised here, and it's now been scheduled for September here. And but definitely, speaking of September here, the Stampede used to be scheduled in September here. I almost think hopefully there's a contingency plan that we'll still have some kind of Stampede where it will happen later in the summer, because the city definitely needs it for the economic impact here that is definitely being ravaged right now with what's been going on here. But I definitely need the Stampede, for my emotional and spiritual too. But that's definitely a question to ask here with the, banning of public events and gatherings in the city of Calgary, including sports here. But the thing with the sports here that, I said there's 4 games at the Calgary Stampeders. So much for, because when the schedule came out and I got excited that it was fitting. The home opener would have been on the same night as my 38th birthday here, but I guess that's not going to happen now. But there's actually 4 games that are going to get pretty much scrapped with this going on here, because the first game that the Calgary Stampeders were scheduled to play would have been on Saturday, March 30th here, as the Calgary Stampeders would have had their first preseason game against the Saskatchewan Roughriders here. And it's always interesting when the Saskatchewan Roughriders come to town here, but that's just preseason. But that would have been the first game here. And then, actually, Friday, June 12th, which would have been this guy's 38th birthday here, the Calgary Stampeders would have had their home opener against the Montreal Alouettes here. And we definitely had an interesting game the last time we played the Montreal Alouettes here, and they definitely beat us twice last season here, and definitely was a big reason why we did not host the Western Final here. And then we would have had a Thursday night game on Thursday, June the 18th here. The Calgary Stampeders would have been taking on the BC Lions there, so that's 3 games here. And the 4th game here would have been, actually it was only 3 games here because Calgary had a couple of road games here, so just 3 games here in Calgary would have been canceled here instead of 4. But there was also road games here, but the CFL has postponed the start of training camp here, and the CFL is likely going to be following other major sports here on. They're not going to play until it's deemed safe. And in my CFL postponing training camp video, there was speculation that the CFL season, if indeed we have one here, and definitely the CFL definitely cannot afford any stoppage or no season at all here. There's consensus here thinking that the regular season won't start until Labor Day because the CFL is committed to still have the Grey Cup hosted when it was hosted here. So it means either try to compress the schedule or have a 9-game regular season. It'll definitely be interesting. And I'm going to say it's going to definitely be a little extra emotional if or when I get to go back to a sporting event here. It's going to almost feel almost beyond different than going to a championship game where just the practice of putting on my red, leaving the house or my apartment here, going to said game, and just going in the whole game, the experience. It might actually get dusty if that happens. Hopefully sooner rather than later here. But I'm going to say with this City of Calgary ban on events here, I don't think, the sports-wise, I don't think it really would affect that much here because I know that TSN and Sportsnet, when they released an article saying, "Oh, the City of Calgary, they're banning events up until June 30th," and it's like, "Oh, what if the NHL came back by then?" Well, it doesn't sound like the NHL is likely going to come back before June 30th in some way or fashion here because there's also travel restrictions within place that's going to be until the end of June here. So the consensus here with the NHL here is that I think the earliest that hockey could come back won't be till July anyway, and it sounds like, based on speculation here, and I'll make a follow-up video about any other news here, but it sounds like what they're going to do is that they're going to have like cities that's going to host either divisional games or even playoffs, and it probably will be in front of no fans. So it's not like Calgary's going to have to forfeit the season because the city has banned events here. Because I don't think the season is going to come back before July, and I don't think the Saddledome, sadly, is going to be hosting any games to wrap up the regular season or playoffs here, and that's the consensus seemed to be going out, that you might have certain cities hosting divisional games or divisional playoffs, whatever playoffs they decide to do, and maybe that arena or rink or whatever will play a bunch of games and get the games in and try to have TV revenue too. That's the only way the leagues can recoup the costs here, and I know the NBA seems to be proposing that too, about having games in select cities to finish it up here, but it's definitely going to be a while before you're going to start seeing, traditional form here. And so I think, that's the big question about this City of Calgary banning events here is what's going to happen to the Calgary Stampede this year. And I think that's definitely heavy to say that Stampede still went on despite 2 World Wars, the Great Depression, and the floods in 2013, but this thing might actually shelve it here, believe it or not. But hopefully we'll still have some kind of Stampede, even if it's, go back in time and have it in September, have a shorter version, just to have it. Because we definitely need it, economically, spiritually, and, just to proudly show our Western heritage and culture here, and just to say we're back. And then, hopefully next year everything will just get back on track and just put this in memory here. And that's kind of the beauty of making these videos here, is that we can look back on how things were dire then and hopefully say, I survived it, we survived it here. But that's just my take on recent Calgary news, City of Calgary news, what affects, Flames and the Stampeders here in terms of games. But I still think there won't have been any games at earliest till after June 30th anyway. And the Hitmen have already canceled their season, no playoffs, no Memorial Cup, and then the Roughnecks, I mean, they're still in that holding pattern too, but basically they're going to wait until whenever they'll play. And I don't think I'm going to be using the rest of my tickets with my Calgary Roughnecks here. I think lacrosse games probably be the same thing. They're just going to play in some select city to wrap up the season and playoffs here. But what do you think about everything in the City of Calgary decision here? I mean, it is what we need to do to beat this terrible thing here. But do you think the Calgary Stampede's in jeopardy? Are we going to still have the Calgary Stampede this year? Is it going to still be in traditional form here? Because it starts off with the parade. I mean, I don't really not big of going to the parade anyway, but I don't think you're going to be seeing over 100,000 people gathered in downtown along the parade route to have a parade. Maybe there'll be a virtual parade this year, or I'm going to say could we still have a Stampede in September? It just says volumes about the Stampede still went on despite other worldly events and a local event that was devastating when it happened, but this might actually not make it happen. So yeah, I mean, sorry for these kind of videos recently, but they say we're all in this together here, but I just, this is one of the things I've been trying to do to cope with this whole thing, is continue on with my journey on this being a hobby, but I want to continue to keep growing on here and see where it takes me. So as I say, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders, as well as the greatest outdoor show on earth, the Calgary Stampede, and hopefully we'll still have some kind of Calgary Stampede this year, but you never know how this thing is going. I mostly talk, sports in Calgary and being a Calgary sports fan here. I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I also share my experiences. Let's say I'm on the road or at a sporting event or even at the Calgary Stampede. So if that sounds like you all be interested to watch on my channel to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, you know what you need to do. Just make sure you subscribe if you're new, or thanks if you're returning here. I also have my other social media links down in the description below there. So there's other ways you can follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey. So I'll just say I've still got my Stampeders gear on. Go Stamps go, and hopefully we'll all stay safe, and hopefully we'll be saying some Yahoo for some Calgary Stampede, whenever that is going to be, if it's going to be somehow when it's scheduled, or maybe later this year, because the city definitely is going to have to salvage something here, because we need it economically and spiritually here. So as I say, I'll see you in the next video here.